news is good news, right?
Elissa shook her head. That's not how the saying goes, Dad.
Close enough. Besides, you're the writer, not me.
He flashed her a smile and winked. Oh, so they didn't teach you journalism in prison? She sounded snarkier than she'd intended, but she was tired and annoyed.
Hardly. Though San Diego at least offered some educational opportunities. Glad I was sent there instead of L.A. That's where they send the real degenerates.
Yeah, and we all know you're not a degenerate, Elissa quipped with a twist of her lips. Her father snorted, well accustomed to her sass.
Burglary is hardly first-degree murder, Elissa. But I'm reformed now, going straight.
So you've said, she deadpanned, her lack of confidence obvious, not to mention well-earned. Nothing would please her more than for her father's claims to be true, but a lifetime of experience told her otherwise. The man had been in and out of jails and prisons since her mother's death when Elissa was 10. Since her mother had been the primary breadwinner, Cray had resorted to a life of crime to keep them afloat. Petty theft, burglary, larceny, nothing major, that they'd ever popped him for, that is. Elissa had learned long ago to not ask questions she didn't want the answers to. Still, he was her dad, the only true family she had left in the world, apart from crazy Aunt San, her dad's only sibling. Elissa had been shuffled off to live with Aunt San every time her father went to jail. It had been hard enough to say goodbye to him so many times throughout her childhood, but to then live with a grown woman who had an unhealthy obsession with boy bands and a fondness for Chardonnay, or maybe it was the other way around, was the rotten cherry on top of a shit sundae. That's why, when Cray had been released this time, Elissa had invited him to stay with her until he got back on his feet and figured out a new path. That seemed less and less likely, though, especially when he still palled around with his criminal cronies, and she could only assume Buddy was one of them. So why the hell was she sitting here waiting for the guy in the middle of a fancy neighborhood at 1:20 in the morning? The answer was, of course, that the chance to write an explosive expose on the company of dragons responsible for enforcing shifter law in Los Angeles far outweighed any concerns over her own safety or her father's promises to clean up his act. Good thing it was dark, or Cray would have seen her blush. The dark was blasted away by the overhead light when the rear passenger door of her car was jerked open, blinding her momentarily. Buddy must have finally arrived. Squinting and blinking against the light, Elissa only caught a glimpse of the man in her back seat before he slammed the door shut, blinding her again, but this time with darkness. Adrenaline shot into her system, sending her heart thumping in her chest. The man was dressed from head to toe in black with a ski mask covering his face, except his eyes. His wild, feral eyes. He looked a hell of a lot more like a carjacker than an informant, and his shouts confirmed it.
Drive!
The man screamed as he slid a heavy black duffel bag onto the seat next to him. The bag could easily have been filled with enough weapons to take out a couple of unarmed Panther shifters.
Go, go, go!
Elissa's fight-or-flight instinct took over. Throwing the car into drive, she mashed the gas pedal all the way to the floorboard and peeled off down the street at the speed of a souped-up DeLorean. Maybe if I get the speedometer up to 88 miles per hour, her panicked brain thought, I can go back in time and tell my dad no for once in my life. Elissa's wide eyes watched in the rearview mirror as the carjacker peeled off his ski mask to reveal a middle-aged dude with short, salt-and-pepper hair and an equally speckled goatee. Her sniffer told her he was also a big cat shifter, but the smell of her own fear hid which kind. The man frowned at her in the mirror, but then turned his attention to Cray.
What the hell, Cray? You were supposed to come alone. Buddy, this is my daughter Elissa,
Cray said smoothly, totally unfazed by what had just happened. Because why would he be? This was his friend they'd been waiting on for what seemed like hours.
Now would you mind telling me exactly what the hell is going on?
Buddy shook his head.
Oh, is that the game you're playing? Don't want to look bad in front of the kid?
Elissa gripped the steering wheel and tried not to look at her father. She knew the expression he'd be wearing, one of stunned surprise, total bewilderment, and utter innocence.
What are you talking about, buddy?
Cray snapped, keeping up the show for her sake.
Psh, man, stop pretending you're something you're not.